Three Lives, Three Worlds, Eternal Love of Dream. From Chinese author, Tangqi's original work. Back to Chaos in a Dream, Chapter 9 Finale. Feng Hui woke, and found herself not sleeping in the Suyan chamber at the heavenly Jade Sea, but lying in the Beije chamber at Taichen Palace. She slowly sat up on the bed as her eyes fell onto the set of little porcelain foxes placed on top of the nearby zither table. The little foxes were made by Di Hun in an effort to win her favor when she woke up after the big battle with Miao Luo. Feng Hui's mind went blank momentarily. Then she understood immediately. This was Taichen Palace 260,000 years in the future. She had returned to the present. Su Ti had said that when the destined opportunity arrived, Gun Gun and herself would naturally return to the present from the Chaos era. She massaged her temple, making an effort to recollect for some time. Then, she remembered that just a moment ago, Di Hun and herself were at the Water Marsh School in Shou Huaye. Could it be? The hand massaging her temple paused momentarily. Could it be that the storage box made from pure Dao Lijade at Water Marsh School was the destined opportunity mentioned by Goddess Su Ti? She sat crossed-legged by the edge of the bed, and spent a short while carefully thinking about it in detail once more, feeling that this was most likely the case. Di Jun made plans to head to the Water Marsh School Palace. This was a month after High God Hosin had been inaugurated in the Nine Heavens, becoming the third king of gods. A explained that he wanted to use this opportunity to retrieve an item while Hosin was temporarily making no effort to consolidate the school as part of his personal property. Di Hun did not usually bring up official matters in his day-to-day life, but if Feng Hui were to ask, Di Hun would not keep it from her. If she was not able to understand what was said, Di Hun would patiently explain it to her. Fei Wei said Di Hun was the type of person who would not bother speaking to someone if he felt that they were not intelligent enough to comprehend, and this was the first time he saw Di Hun treating someone so patiently in the 100,000-odd years he had served him. Anist Fei Wei's intention when he said those words was to make Di Hou happy, but it had appeared as if he had unintentionally categorized her as an unintelligent person. Di Hou could be dense at times, so she didn't catch the underlying tone and had not reacted to it. But the frightening part was, these words were overheard by Di Hun who happened to be passing by. Di Yu took out a book entitled Learning the Way to Say the Right Words with High God Seijian, making Fei Wei copy it 30 times over as a punishment. Learning the Way to Say the Right Words with High God Seijian was a book Seijian gifted Di Hun after his first visit to the heavenly Jade Sea, where he was stifled by Di Hun till he questioned life itself. Perhaps even High God Seijian himself had never dreamt that his book would eventually be put to use in this way. As Di Hun had not held anything back from her, Feng Hui knew what Di Hun intended to retrieve. It was a formation strategy drawing that the late Cao Wan had left behind. According to what Di Hun had said, the only thing left in the 8 realms that could counter his Tianjuan formation strategy at present was the Hiesisumi formation strategy personally drawn by Cao Wan. Only 3 people in the world knew of the existence of this strategy. One was himself, another was Cao Wan herself, and the last was the person who had the scroll in his safekeeping, High God Mojuan. As a matter of fact, the fake scroll of formation drawings Di Hun previously leaked to Fu Jin were not completely useless. If one were to look closely at the 36 key ingenuities concealed within it and amend them one by one, it would really be able to counter the Qianjuan formation strategy. However, this scroll of formation drawings still had areas where it fell short when compared to Cao Wan's Hiesisumi formation. The Hiesisumi formation, placing a mustard seed into Buddha's mountain, and placing Buddha's mountain into a mustard seed. The small within the large, and the large within the small. This was a formation strategy that utilized using the few to defeat the many, and the use of softness to conquer strength. To counter the Qianjuan greater formation, which utilized absolute military strength as a guarantee, with a small army, the Hiesisumi formation was the only formation in the world that could accomplish it. Feng Hui may be young, but she was still the queen of Inu. She was also not constantly dense and was able to understand this after giving it some thought. Since the Hiesisumi formation had such a function, Di Hun planning to have it in his possession was proof that he already had the intention to return to the 9 heavens. This was different from what the history books had stated. It wasn't until 3,000 years later, when heaven and earth devolved into chaos once again, that Di Jun could not tolerate another great war rising before deciding to leave his seclusion to unite the 5 races, grasping authority once again. What else did the history books say? Oh, right. According to the written account, after High God Joseon wielded the scepter of the Parahata tree, becoming the third king of gods, the demon, ghost and monster races were intimidated by the Qian-Duan greater formation and were forced to cede to the god race. These brought the longest period of peace within the 4 seas and the 8 realms since the start of the chaotic war. Over the next 3,000 years, every living being within the 4 races were finally able to recover from the war. But 3,000 years later, the founding lord from the group of 7 demon lords unexpectedly thought of the way to successfully decode the Qian-Duan formation. After the Qian-Duan formation was decoded, the army of the god race were no longer constantly winning wars undefeated. Subsequently, the founding demon lord ripped up the Treaty of Tangqi, formed an united alliance of the 7 demon lords, and jointly declared war on the god race. From then on, the curtains were drawn for the acts of war between the gods and demons, and the 8 realms were once again in great upheaval. Feng Hu shared this period of history with Fei Wei. The history books state that Di Hun had no intention of ruling heaven and earth. But the demon race ripped up the treaty and launched the war, leading to the suffering of all life in the 8 realms. God Joseon was unable and incapable of fixing the situation. Di Jun was benevolent and could not sit by while the 8 realms were once again embroiled in chaos. As a result, he reopened the heavenly Jade Sea, commandeered 72 generals and millions of soldiers, and sorted out the conflicts between the god and demon race one after another. At the same time, Feng Hu raised a question of her own, but I think that Di Hun already anticipated that the world would descend into chaos eventually and was determined to participate in this war. Moreover, he has already started preparations for it, right? Fei Wei was undoubtedly Di Hun's most trusted immortal steward. The internal and external affairs of the heavenly Jade Sea were all managed by him, so he knew everything in detail. Feng Hu was able to see Donghua's intentions because he had not hidden anything from her, but the fact that she was this meticulously caring about Di Hun made Fei Wei feel a sense of comfort. He immediately expressed what he knew and replied without any reservation, the demon race are experts in strategic formations. After seeing the rudimentary decoded formation drawing that Di Hun leaked to Fu Jing, no matter how unintelligent they might be, 3,000 years of studying the formation would have been enough research time for them to correctly unravel it. But having said that, Fei Wei paused momentarily to revise himself. In fact, even without Di Hun's rudimentary drawings, the demon race might still be able to unravel the formation eventually. It's just that the number of years they would take to do so will be hard to say. After he finished revising his thoughts, Fei Wei continued, the true enemy of the god race had always been the demon race. Once the demon race unravels and decodes the Qian-Duan formation, they would naturally incite war once again. Di Jun had indeed foreseen this a long time ago. Feng Hu nodded her head pensively. Fei Wei smiled slightly. In the 8 realms and 4 seas, only Di Hun has the ability to be the master of all races. The elders and High God Joseon did not understand this and still believed that scheming against Di Hun would enable them to sit firmly on the seat of the King of Gods. Since they did not comprehend this, he used this opportunity to let them figure it out thoroughly on their own, that's all. These had always been the efficient way with which Di Hun usually conducts matters. Feng Hu fell silent for a while. I know Di Hun always loved to play chess and could treat heaven and earth and the 8 realms like a game of chess. Is Di Hun a person with this much ambition? Fei Wei also remained quiet for a while, then he sighed quietly. If Di Hun had any intention to conquer the world, why wouldn't he have raised capable military generals and a powerful army a long time ago? And if he had sufficient military strength, why would he wait a few thousand years to clean up the god race and subdue the demon race? When High God Mojuan was around, Di Hun definitely would not have bothered to take charge of this matter, and had also acknowledged that High God Mojuan was the best choice to be the king of gods. A son of Father God, a legitimate heir of heaven and earth. Who would dare be disloyal and refuse to accept his leadership? But didn't they High God Mojuan leave just like that? The new era of the gods was the painstaking effort of High God Mojuan and Goddess Sao Wan after everything was said and done. They had already gone to this extent, so letting mediocre people destroy their effort would be a great pity. Feng Hu was stumped for a long moment. When I got to know Donghua, it was already over 200,000 years later. Di Hun had already secluded himself from the world and retired to Taichim Palace. The legacy he left behind for future generations was the shadow of his triumph in every battle, and his success in every invasion. Everything he did seemed to be easy for him, and there was nothing he couldn't do. He had no idea that Di Hun also had to endure such a test of patience and consideration to meticulously plan to do something. Fei Wei laughed. After all, this is certainly a matter that is considerably difficult. Feng Qiu did not mention the conversation she had with Fei Wei to Di Hun, but she made a silent vow in her heart. Di Jun needed to prepare for a major event at this time, and since she was the person who was accompanying him by his side, she would have to double her efforts at being more considerate towards him. Although she might be unable to shed any of his burdens, at least she did not need to let him worry about her. Consequently, when Di Hun wanted to head to Water Marsh to attend to his official matters, she restrained herself and did not bring it up despite wanting very much to come along to visit the place. But Di Hun brought her along on his own, saying that she could take care of his day-to-day life. With this reason, Feng Qiu could not decline tagging along. Besides, she really did want to visit the secret school palace that had sunk to the bottom of the East Sea long before she was born. Eventually, while they were at Water Marsh, they unexpectedly ran into the rumored long-missing High God Mojuan. Seeing Di Hun's expression, it appeared that Di Hun was not at all surprised to find High God Mojuan secluding there. God Mojuan was her aunt, Bai Qian's master. Hence, after he awakened from 70,000 years of deep sleep after sealing Ghost Lord, Kan, Feng Qiu had also seen this venerable god several times. At that time, the venerable god she saw was peaceful, prudent and quietly secluded. Anyone looking at him would feel a sense of reverence for him from deep within their hearts. But the entire personality of the High God, found within Water Marsh at this moment, was nevertheless substantially different even though his physical appearance was exactly the same 260,000 years in the future. If one were to say that High God Mojuan of the future was equivalent to a gentle piece of ancient jade, the venerable god of this moment could be compared to an edge of a blade dyed in blood, a dispirited soul concealing his brilliance, standing aloof from worldly affairs. It could also be compared to an orchid steeped in blood, physically living in a deep valley outside the secular world with his heart trapped in endless hell. The history books had never recorded the reasons for Mojuan's sudden disappearance after he established the new era of the gods. As a result, Feng Qiu did not know that this matter was related to Sao Wan. Although Feng Qiu was curious on seeing the current appearance of this venerable god, she also knew that this wasn't a good time to ask Di Hun about it. Despite being disheartened by the current state of world affairs after hearing why Di Hun was looking for the Hiesisumi formation and Di Hun's intentions towards its use, High God Mojuan did not make things difficult. It moved around the library for several moments and quickly sought out an exquisite storage box made of ornate jade and said that the formation drawing was stored in it. The jade box was not a creation of Sao Wan but a gift bestowed by Su Ti, as her name was carved onto the bottom right corner of its cover. Feng Qiu saw how exquisite the box was and had every intention to give it a closer appreciation after Di Hun took the formation drawings out of the box. But as soon as she touched it, a sudden blinding flash of silver light burst from the jade box, and she was swept into it like the speed of a thunderbolt that was too fast to cover One's ears. In the split second that she was swept into the silver light, she had lost consciousness. When she awakened afterwards, she had already returned to her present time. In the Beige chamber, Feng Qiu propped up her chin as she sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed, pulling herself out of her memories. As soon as she did so, she heard the sound of hurried footsteps approaching. When she lifted her head to see who had arrived, she discovered that the person was none other than Di Hun, who was supposed to be secluding inside Jiangsu book chamber. Feng Qiu was somewhat distracted. Di Jun set his eyes on her and saw that she was well and sitting by the bedside. He appeared to heave a sigh of relief as he walked over, stretching his hand out to touch her forehead. "Do you feel unwell in any way?" Feng Qiu blanked out for a moment, then she suddenly smiled, both hands holding onto Di Hun's hand, swaying it lightly as she raised her head to look at him. "You may not believe me when I say this, Di Hun. It seems that I have gone 260,000 years back in time and seen you when you were 140,000 years old." Though her surprise, Di Hun was not in the least bit shocked. "How was I at that time?" She kneaded his fingers as she played with them. "At that time, you were also very good. Why aren't you surprised?" He tidied her sleep-induced messy hair around her ears. "Bringing you to sightsee at Mount Sangwei, and taking you to Water Marsh to develop your knowledge, I was naturally feeling very good. Tangqi widened her eyes. How did you know? On that day, the highly skilled goddess Uti had boldly sent Tangqi 260,000 into the past after Gungun accidentally passed through and had felt no necessity to inform Tnagqi. The third prince was more prudent and had personally gone to Jamsu book chamber to inform Tnagqi on learning about this matter. Tnagqi naturally wanted to chase after them, but even he, himself, had no ability to travel back in time, so he could only let Suti lend him a helping hand. Suti was of the opinion that, although she could recall time, she was unable to gratuitously send anyone back to the past at will. Rather than saying little Gungun and young Tangqi were able to travel back in time because of her will, it might be better to say it was Haben's will. Since Tnagqi was determined to chase after them, she could only try her utmost to do so. As for whether Tnagqi could return 260,000 years back to the past, it would rely on his own destiny. However, Tnagqi had not felt that this was a meaningless endeavor. While he was in that era, he could no longer remember everything that had happened 260,000 years later. The Tnagqi of the present was indeed no different from the original Tnagqi of that age. Back when Tangqi touched Suti's jade box, the destined opportunity descended. As Jun and Gungun similarly did not belong to that era, he along with Gungun, who was at the distant heavenly Jade Sea, traveled back to the present once again in the wake of the silver light illuminating the world from the jade box. After listening to Tnagqi clearly recount the whole story, Tangqi was extremely shocked. So it was like this? Goldie Suti had said before, once Gungun and I return through time, all the imprints we have left behind in that period of time will disappear, and no one will remember us. An exceedingly spirited and happy expression exuded from her large apricot eyes. I was originally thinking that it was such a pity for Tnagqi to forget that we ever had such a period in our lives. But now, I feel really fortunate. She happily hugged him around his waist for a while when something seemed to cross her mind, and she raised her head. Retracting her smile as she looked at him for a long spell, pulling his hand and letting him sit by her side. But I have a question. A perplexed expression appeared on her delicately beautiful face. If Tnagqi had forgotten me, why did you fall in love with me so quickly? Based on what you said, when I traveled back in time, you totally did not know me at all. You only heard from me that I am your future wife, that's all. But you still treated me so well right from the beginning. She furrowed her brow, sincerely puzzled. Why were you so good to me and fell in love with me so quickly? Biting her lip lightly, because in reality, the situation wasn't like this. Initially it was clearly I who chased after Tnagqi for a very very long time before you finally fell in love with me. He raised his hand and tapped her forehead. In reality, you were a palace maid in Taichin Palace for 400 years, but I never saw you. You said you chased after me for a very long time, but I was totally unaware of it. After we had some destiny, you had already reverted back to your status as Inu's queen. When I first saw you, he stopped suddenly. She sat kneeling by his side, stroking her forehead where he had tapped, and curiously asked, when you first saw me, how did you feel, Tnagqi? When he first met her, she had emerged from the waves of the Wamsang Sea, her hair jet black and long, her body clad in a snow-white muslin robe, standing above the waves, smiling beautifully at the entire party of bridal escorts. Her thoroughly wet long hair cascading like a waterfall, her fringe sticking onto her cheeks, making her face, which was only the size of a palm, appear even more delicate. Amongst the young fairies of 9 heavens, no one else had that bright smile, and that lucid and elegant appearance. He had always believed that when he first met her by the banks of the Wamsang Sea, he honestly did not have that big of an impression of her. But now, at this moment of recollection, the scene of that day was vivid in his mind. It was stumped for a long time. Until she pulled on his sleeve once again, pressing him on how he felt when he first met her. It was then that he returned to the present, not realizing the warmth his facial expression was exuding towards her. When I first saw you, wasn't I already captivated by you? The hand massaging her forehead paused, her eyes widening. It was a long while before she murmured, is that true? He laughed, his hand replacing hers, helping her massage the sore area where he had tapped earlier. So even if we don't know each other, once I set eyes on you, I will fall in love with you very quickly. No matter how many times this happens, it will always be the same. She was dumbfounded as she looked at him. For a long time. Suddenly, her eyes reddened and then, she threw her entire self towards him, wrapping her arms tightly around his neck, easily burying her cheek into his shoulder. Very quickly, he felt a patch of moisture on his shoulder. Why are you crying again? His voice was soft. But she simply embraced him tightly, placing the side of her face close against his shoulder, and replied in a muffled, yet lovable voice, I also don't know why. I just feel very happy, but I still feel like crying. Dihun, you are not allowed to look at me. I won't look. He raised his hand stroking her head, then he imprinted a kiss on top of her head. Bodhi rebirths bloom all over the palace walls. Flowered blossoms crowding around. Like the continuous coil of mist and clouds. Bude bell flowers dance. Flying upwards amidst the night wind. This night is a good night. Enough chapter of the story.